as a Madala, he's won the World Masters Champs. I'm excited that he's not just here with myself. He's here joining me and my brother, Penuel, the Black Pen.
DJ Sporang Grand, how are you?
I'm great and I'm honored and I'm excited to introduce Eusebius Mckaiser to the world. Guys, welcome Eusebius.
Thank you so much, guys, for giving me the memo for the blankets. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Jeez, and Pushubwa Kandala. I'm quite excited to be speaking to Eusebius today and learning from him. He's a bit of a controversial character. I know he's been dragged. Yes.
Controversial?
Yes. I'm saying this because we have a black majority who have been forced into racial politics aggressively. And because of that, when they get a sober mind and even an alternative political mind, I mean, a book like Would I Vote DA? It's like, no, this guy is a sellout. Very great mind. I've gotten to learn to appreciate a lot of his commentary in particular because it's always sober. You know, he's not trying to buy face. He's literally being like, guys, but when you look at it at face value, this is what we're seeing. So I'm quite excited. Looking forward to learning from him as well. Welcome, Eusebius.
Thank you. Are we going to be talking about Trevor Manuel though?
Hey, no, cut.
You're looking good, bro.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're aging nicely.
Yeah, I'm not a fashion person, but I thought like, shit, if I'm going to go to a platform that you are hosting, let me try and be quasi-decent. So I bought this in Barcelona, Benetton.
Beautiful.
This sort of, I don't know what you call this thing, a poncho. And the viewers can't smell me, but I also try to smell nice. It's always smelling nice.
Yes.
I think you too, man.
No, hey! Spood as the style fashion icon here.
Today I'm smelling finesse.
Come on.
By Drip.
Come on.
I'm drinking Mofire.
By DJ
I'm
Spood.
wearing Zeitgeist.
Yeah,
Come on.
Coffee,
Drip. It's
you
like
put in a shot of Mofire.
wearing local brands, you know? So it's good to see Eusebius. It's also good to see him looking healthy.
Yeah.
And I can see his beard has grown. So big up to the
Beard gang. Beard gang. Huh? Rick Ross.
Now we are in that age now.
Yeah.
Although I think you mustn't age us too much because you and I are similar age.
Yeah.
You keep talking about younger people like having had enough. And I think I was like, oh God, are you like suggesting we're already over the hill?
Jeez. But we're still lighties, bro.
Yeah, by ANC Youth League definitions, we're still
I think you're a lighter until you're 35, right?
Technically in this country, our youth is up to 35.
Technically, yeah.
Technically.
Yeah. But for me, I believe youth is 30 years and younger.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah,
25 to 30 for me is still young. Yeah. 30 to 35 is actually a bit old.
But the conundrum in our politics, Fikile is regarded as still young in the ANC.
Yo, that's shocking.
Already 50. So it all depends.
It's shocking.
Are you talking ANC definition or normal definition?
Jeez, or soccer age.
Yeah.
Or soccer age.
I think let's maybe take it back before we get into current conversations. Maybe I've never heard Eusebius' story. Maybe just to summarize your story.
Look, I grew up in the Eastern Cape. I'm from Grahamstown. That's now Makanda. And like the majority of people in the country, I come from a poor working class background, combination of the two. Grew up in a predominantly colored neighborhood in the 80s. Grew up Afrikaans. Primary school was homogenous Afrikaans, Catholic run school. And our generation was the first generation of coconut. So in the early 90s, I had a chance to go to a former whites only school, Graham College Boys High.
Hey,
and
shout out to Graham.
Yes, to Graham. And it was only the second year that schools had been, racially integrated, former white schools anyway. And I couldn't speak English when I started in Standard 6, back then when we had 4 provinces. And then, by the end of high school, I had done a lot of debating and public speaking. I love current affairs. I was a nerdish kid, a teacher's pet, very quiet, if you can believe it. Extremely quiet. Debating made me an extrovert. Until then, I was very timid. And then I decided to go to university, thought I'd become a lawyer, didn't enjoy law, preferred philosophy. So ended up studying law and philosophy. Cut a long story short, after some years in England, came back to South Africa, had a small stint in management consulting. And then I just missed having an audience because as a debater, you always have an audience at the podium. And I listened to a lot of talk radio in Joburg and I thought, shit, man, I can be a talk host as well. Some of these guys are asking inane questions. I can ask them too. Knocked at 702's door and they said, nope, you are too academic. You're going to lose our audience. But we'll give you a chance late night on a Sunday, on my first show. And I haven't looked back since. And then I've been in radio, TV, and just writing.
Incredible and interesting. Have you also been part of debating teams when you were young?
I was, not by choice.
Yeah.
I was forced. It sucks being a good academic student because then your teachers all are like, no, you must. I debated in high school, so I'm from Newcastle, KwaZulu. I was in Makanda, for 4 or 5 years because I went to Rhodes as well.
Okay.
So I know Joza, I know Mary Waters, I know Kingswood College. I loved Rhodes very much, but again, I got there accidentally because my mom wanted me to go somewhere unique. Everyone from where I come from wanted to go to Wits. Some wanted to go to UJ. Some went to UKZN because we're in KZN. Yeah. And I ended up at Rhodes and I loved it thoroughly. And I know for a fact that people that are there for that duration, there's something unique about it.
Yes.
I don't want to sing praises of Rhodes, but there's something about that town and the students running the town. I did.
How?
I never drank. I guess I'm really stubborn.
What were you doing? BSc?
I was doing accounting. But it's got nothing to do with accounting. I'm just a stubborn guy, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was fascinated.
No wonder your skin is so clear.
There's mates of mine from Grahamstown. I think the Jury's family.
Yes. The rugby playing ones.
Yes, Speckman family as well.
Yeah, I know them very well.
So I've got a very...
With
Really?
With Fabian.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I've got a very soft spot for Grahamstown. I thought I was going to be there for much longer. And I'm very sad that the town hasn't developed. So maybe that will be my first question to you. As an example for other small towns in the country, what is wrong in Grahamstown? What is wrong even in the Eastern Cape, in your opinion?
Listen, that's that's an on-point question. If you were to do a documentary on Grahamstown, Makanda, and its degradation, it is a snapshot into what's wrong with the entire province and the country.
Yeah.
Literally, every single thing. I mean, I go back 2-3 times a year, if I can, university, or to visit family because my family is still there.
Sure.
The potholes are gigantic. The water provision is crappy. The finances are horrible. Refuse removal doesn't happen. It used to be a quote-unquote safe space for families to send their kids. Well, if you're middle class, we can go to these fancy schools and it's a good place. With a high court there provincially. Of course, with a festival, it's also significant culturally. But now it is a shadow of its former self, completely, to the point where the citizens have had to put their differences aside, town and gown, and with the unemployed people's movement, with Ayanda Kota, and with 1 or 2 people from the posh side of town cooperating to challenge the ANC and the DA, and to run as a civic-based organization, basically, in the local elections, to see whether they can take over the money and do a better job of running the municipality. They also instituted legal action to force Bisho to take over the municipality because it wasn't fulfilling its legal duties. Yeah. And so the long and short of it is that, the state of Makanda is the state of the country. And the lack of faith that the citizens have in all the political players, be it DA or ANC, also tells you just how jaded the citizens of Makanda actually are. I'm sad when I go home, especially Joza, Kanda Township, if you know Grahamstown well, Ghost Town, and other areas, Wogenoeg, Vergenoeg. People just look defeated. It's like they don't have a stake in the country and in the country's economy and democracy. And unemployment levels there are probably higher than what it is nationally.
I can imagine.
And so it's really, really sad.
It hurts, eh?
It does hurt. Absolutely. You feel like a survivor if you go back and you come from Jozi. It's like you have survivor's guilt.
Do you personally think education is the key? I'm asking this because Zimbabweans are quite literate and quite educated, but they seem to be struggling to solve their own problems. Grahamstown is known as an educational town. It's got some of the best schools in the country, and it's got Rhodes universities with some of the greatest leaders in the country and even in other parts of the world. It's like, but you guys had an education institution there. Why has it failed to transform a small town into maybe like a Stellenbosch, for example? Do you think education is the answer, or is there something that we're missing? Because
you're asking deep questions early on in our discussions.
Sorry.
Look, yes and no, in the sense that Zimbabwe is a good example that you can have an educated population and you can still have a political elite that preys on the entire society. Zim in the 80s was incredible. When I was at Rhodes in the late 90s, all the way until the mid 2000s, it was a wake-up call to me as a South African that hadn't traveled anywhere and who thought that anything north of Limpopo must be not quite as cool as South Africa.
True.
And suddenly you have to deal with all these like Zim students
At
who are
Rhodes.
fancier than us, who
At
are more
Rhodes.
cosmopolitan at Rhodes, who are smarter than us, who've done A-levels,
Yeah.
for whom first year is a joke, while
Yeah.
we catch up to where they were at the end of schooling. But then you fast forward into 2000 and then thereon, and Zim just starts falling apart. And the lesson of Zim is that even when your revolutionaries become your first government and they invest in things like education, if you don't have proper oversight, and if the educated class is not actively involved in keeping a close eye over the politicians and getting actively involved in politics, then your society can fall apart because they can get on with mischief while you are looking away. And part of the reason why I'm speaking so passionately about it is that yesterday I finished Songezo Zibi's book, Manifesto, which is out now. And it is the main thing that he says. He addresses the three of us in the book. And he says, professional class, I'm speaking to you. We outsource activism to the poor and to the working class, and we retreat as the professional class because we don't want to get our hands dirty and get involved in politics. What are the chances of us running to be an independent council of our wards, for example?
Sure.
So that's a long way to say that the direct answer to your question is education helps.
Sure.
But unless the middle class and the educated class and the professional class is prepared to actually get inside the political arena, the people who put up their hands to be in the political arena, they get to control the levers of power.
Of course.
Somebody was
Jeez.
saying that, like, a lot of us are not interested in politics on campus. And then we get surprised who's leading us 10 years later.
100%. That's exactly true. And I was one of those students at Rhodes. I got there. I had good funding. I had some good bursaries. And for me, SRC politics were for poor kids
Of
who
course.
desperately want to explain why they shouldn't be academically or financially excluded.
You're right.
So if you didn't face academic or financial exclusion, Sasko et al. Were not for you. And now you realize actually there's a pathway from those kids to who goes into the state eventually.
Sure.
And then 20 years later, you want to bitch and moan and call into John Robbie and say, what are they doing with my